Welcome into Sports Memo's Betting Podcast, NHL edition. We got Alex B. Smith, Andrew McGinnis on board. We're breaking down tonight's NHL card. Alex, welcome into the podcast. How you doing today, man?
Doing good. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm talking hockey on a day where I'm going to be getting ready to be snowed in once again here in Minnesota. But it's perfect. There's a lot of good action on tonight, tomorrow. This is when hockey really starts amping up. This is officially the push for the playoffs. Every team's got about 25 to 26 games left. We got the trade deadline on the horizon, so it's just going to be a lot of good hockey to watch from here on out.
Yeah, no, excited to hear your opinion on tonight's slate. Also, what's going on in the NHL betting markets. You can follow Alex on Twitter at AX Smith Sports. Also, other NHL handicapper, Andrew McGinnis. McGinnis, welcome to the podcast. How you doing today?
Hey, Drew, thanks. Yeah, doing really good. Like Alex said, I mean, kind of to reiterate that, it really is the push for the playoffs, and I don't think people really understand, Drew, how close the standings really are. I mean, you look at the Eastern Conference. Besides Tampa Bay, who I don't think anyone realizes either, they have a 45-11-4 record. I mean, they're pretty much dominating this East. But besides that, you got Boston in second with 78 points, Toronto with 75, Montreal 69, Buffalo 63. I mean, it's insanely close. Each conference, especially the West, actually is really, really tight. So every single game matters these days, and it's especially those divisional matchups are really huge. So a decent slate of games last night, and have some great games here tonight, and a couple teams on back-to-back. So looking forward to talking about a few games, giving out some picks.
Yeah, you can follow McGinnis on Twitter at McGinnis Sports. Also myself at Drew Martin Betts. Let us know what you want to hear about. If you want to hear more NHL podcasts with both Andrew and Alex, we're interested in any opinions any of the listeners have. And also, guys, remember it's $2 Tuesday at sportsmemo.com, and we got Robbie Vino as the premier play. You can get his play for just $2 today, and also in the analysis we got extra bonuses when you buy that play from Robbie Vino. $2 Tuesday at sportsmemo.com, so make sure to check it out. Alex and Andrew both in with plays on tonight's NHL card, so check out their homepages as well. Guys, want to give you a shout out. Start off with you, McGinnis. Last podcast we had for NHL, you gave out Fade Colorado, and the Avs, they've pretty much fallen apart, man, so hats off to you. I know you even got some pushback for that play.
Yeah, I did. I had a couple people say, hey, you know what? What are your thoughts about Colorado? Why are you thinking they're going to tank so much? And, Alex and I were talking about it a little bit off air about how top-heavy they are. And, again, I want to talk about the talent that they have. I mean, that top line that they have is unbelievable. I was mentioning a guy like McKinnon I've watched play here in Halifax, play junior hockey. He went first overall. There was so much hype surrounding that team. But the fact is when you don't have three lines of guys that can really go out there and make a dangerous play for you, your team becomes very predictable. And that's kind of what's happened to this Colorado team. And their defense has also struggled a lot. They're giving up far too many goals to be a team that can be taken seriously. So, I was really happy that day, Drew, that we did that, buy and sell teams. And for me, also looking at team schedules down the stretch was very important. And after that All-Star break, Colorado had a very, very, upsetting schedule if I was them. So, great to see that kind of work out the way I liked it to, and happy to see we were able to give out some projections here on the podcast.
Yeah, no, you gave out that as far as teams looking to bet on or fade, and also Alex gave one out that's been equally as impressive, if not more. Vancouver buy on, Alex. What did you see there in Vancouver? And it's worked out pretty well, correct?
Yeah, this is just a young team that's playing some decent hockey. They have nothing to lose. Like I said, they're not trying to do a whole lot to get into the playoff race. If they play well and make the playoffs, so be it. But they're still sticking with their long-term goal of trying to build to be a contender for the future. And they've got a lot of talented guys. Thatcher Demko, who ended up getting hurt, but he was one of the rookie goaltenders to come up, and he had some solid starts. He's just playing some solid defense. They don't have a ton of talent. They're playing just full team hockey. It's the inverse of what Andrew mentioned about Colorado being a top-heavy team, only having a couple of key scorers. These guys are just working together to try to break things down, play the game the right way. So, hats off to Vancouver, being a young team that's kind of being in the mix of being in the playoff race, but it's been fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure, guys. And also, off air, we were bringing – before we get into like 4 or 5 games on tonight's slate, Andrew and Alex were talking about a game. It even made SportsCenter as kind of a highlight here. The Ottawa game, 9 goals last night, guys, and that's just in the first period. Something crazy in the NHL. Alex, what did you see from that game? And how much of an outlier game is that in the NHL?
I mean, this is only the fourth time in the last 20 seasons where we've seen this high scoring a game between two teams. For Ottawa, it was the first time they ever lost while scoring 7 goals, and I think it was the first time the Hawks had scored 8 goals since opening night 2 seasons ago. They went and beat Pittsburgh 10-1. But as high scoring as we've seen the league be overall, yeah, it's rare to see 5-4 in the first period. Both starting goaltenders ended up getting pulled early in the contest, so you see all 4 goalies getting work. It was just a crazy game. Things did slow down in the second and third period, of course, and the Hawks had an 8-5 lead, actually let up a couple of goals late, and Ottawa had their goalie pulled and had a power play with a minute left in the game, so Cam Ward made saves when he needed to and pulled it out. But that was just a really wild game. I can't imagine we're going to see another 8-7 game the rest of this season.
Yeah, McGinnis, did you watch the game? What did you think of it?
I was watching it, Drew, and I'll tell you, I mean, you're looking at this game and you're sitting back, enjoying watching it. I'm flipping through the channels, watching a couple different games as well, and it almost becomes laughable. I'm sorry to say it becomes comical because it's just goal after goal after goal after goal. And, you look at, we had all 4 goaltenders in that game, I believe, out there within 6 minutes into the game. And usually you don't see that happen whatsoever. And I got to say, some of the goals were soft. But the funniest part we can take out of this is that this literally proves, and I know that a popular bet yesterday actually was the Senators plus 1.5, but this literally does prove that this Senators team all season long has been getting scored on and has been involved in so many high-scoring games. I mean, so is Chicago, but yet their record does not reflect that. I mean, when you've got a team that can score as much as the Ottawa Senators can, but yet has the record that they have, something is up. And I think this game right there just proved even with scoring that many goals, they can't get a win. Now, the Blackhawks still edge them with that one extra goal. I mean, an 8-7 victory is ridiculous. I mean, if you're one of those kind of guys that hates defensive games, then you love that one, that's for sure.
Midway through the game, the live total was over, but 15.5, and the over shaded to minus 170.
Yeah, and why is that, guys? Like what happened in this particular game to just be so much of an outlier that happened? I mean, did the defense just not show up? What really went on?
It was really bad goaltending at the beginning by Colin Delia for Chicago, and then once he got pulled, Ward was good, but then the defense kind of broke down for him, and then you had Anders Nielsen in net for Ottawa. It was Alex DeBrincat pretty much scored 2 really nice goals on him. He got a hat trick in that game, and they were just eventually the Hawks the speed took over. Patrick Kane scored a goal. Dylan Strome scored on a near breakaway, and then they pulled Nielsen. And Craig Anderson wasn't even going to possibly dress for the game because he had an eye injury that he was trying to get back from. He said he didn't feel like he was 100% to start, but they had to throw him in there, and he looked well. The last, let's say, 35, 40 minutes that he played. But, it went from being bad goaltending to then later in the game, the defense, and then, just some good offensive talent late as well.
Like, I had someone tweet at me, guys, should I take the over 10.5, or is that a sucker bet? Should I do it? And I saw someone out there tweeting about a 14.5. Well, it looks like they both look pretty decent because, I mean, it's like Alex said, you touch on it pretty great because it started off with some just messy goals. I mean, that first goal, Drew, if you watch the first 3 goals of the game, you'd wonder if there were just, bantam goalies out there because I don't know how that happened. But then you look at the end of the second and, start of the third period, there were some talented goals and some actually very skillful goals. But at that point, you don't even care about that. You're just wondering, hey, where's the defense? Where's the goaltending? But anyway, I think it's fun. It's good for the league to have that happen sometimes because everyone knows that a lot of people don't like those 2-1, 3-1 games. So I think the NHL can say, hey, there you go. There's your game. Hey, everybody that likes a lot of goals, there it is for you.
And McGinnis, what do you mean by soft goals?
I mean, they're going, 3 miles an hour, just trickling through the goaltender's pads, and he turns around and just gives us that look to the camera, like how disappointed he is, and just goals that shouldn't go in. I think it's hard to really explain what I'm trying to say, but I just mean, just goals that should never happen at the NHL level. If you're a professional hockey goalie, those goals shouldn't happen. It's more so this player was just shooting that puck to the goaltender just for him to freeze the puck or just trying to get a juicy rebound. Just nothing that no one really expected to go in, but somehow just made its way behind the net.
to make a comparison, like if you look at it with basketball, where you see a play where they're moving down the court and there's good ball movement, somebody takes a nice three that's not contested, just where the play setup worked perfectly. So in hockey, you see a lot of passing, between the circles, cross ice, or a lot of plays set up at where the point, so right at the blue line, and you have guys screening and certain things. Whereas a soft goal is just, like guys just kind of skating down the ice like it's a warm up and just taking not a quality shot, but it still goes in. That's pretty much the comparison for those who may not really, get that transitional.
Okay, no, that makes a lot of sense. And guys, let's start breaking down some of tonight's games, and feel free to throw out whatever trends or anything, kind of from a glimpse view, looking to bet the NHL markets as we go. But we got tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern, in South Florida, Buffalo at Florida. This is game number 55-56. Got a total of 6, little juice towards the over. And the Florida Panthers, minus 135 to minus 140, depending where you're shopping. McGinnis, I know you were looking at this one. How would you look to bet the Sabres and Panthers in South Florida tonight?
Yeah, Drew, maybe I can convince you to get over to the game and place a wager on it. I know you're pretty close to there. And, again, I mean, we talk about how this team is growing and starting to kind of make a name for themselves piece by piece. And I remember talking about them a couple months ago and wondering what this team's going to do, where they're going to go. But I got to say, I've been very, very impressed with this Panthers team over the past several games. With the All-Star break, they've been putting up some goals. They've been involved in some high-scoring games. But it's just funny how they're sometimes, they'll drop a 5-2 game to Tampa Bay and they'll go out and beat, Montreal 6-3. But I got to say, I've been impressed with their forwards. I mean, guys like Jonathan Huberdeau, guys like Barkov are really stepping up for them recently. And that's the thing that I'm always talking about. And they acquired Derek Brassard recently. They've got guys like Vincent Trocheck that can go out there and make a difference, not just on offense, but kind of both ends of the ice. Turn the puck over, get the puck deep, create something for your team. And as far as goaltending goes, that's something that I was always worried about for this Panthers team. And finally we're kind of starting to see James Reimer step up. I think Luongo's kind of going through some things right now, and we see James Reimer step up in a big time. And you look at goalies period by period, first, second, and third. And I've looked at James Reimer's third periods, and it seems to me that as the games have gone on, he has certainly progressed, and he's gotten a lot better. It seems to me this Florida team is clicking at the right time. They're really getting things together. You look at the comparison between these teams in the last 10 head-to-head matchups between the Florida Panthers and the Buffalo Sabres. Florida's averaged 3.6 goals per game. Buffalo just 2.2 during that span. And just overall in the season, Florida 3.1 and Buffalo 2.9. So to me, Buffalo's kind of that team for me, Drew, that I always talk about, like I said, that just has that top line, Jack Eichel, Jeff Skinner, Jason Pominville, and that's kind of where it stops for me. I don't get too nervous seeing anybody else kind of race up the ice. But again, like I said, you got guys for Florida like Huberdeau, Barkov, Trocheck, Hoffman, Brassard, Dadonov that will go out there and make a dangerous play. So, you know what? I understand we're getting kind of a 130, 135, 140 line here, but you look at the way this Florida team's been trending, the way they've been playing, then you look at Buffalo right now. They're so sporadic. I mean, any team losing 4-1 to the New Jersey Devils right now can't be trusted. Any team losing 6-2 to the Rangers right now can't be trusted. This is not a team that I want to back right now. Florida is hot, and sometimes you definitely want to just go with those, go with the trends, go with the streaks, and ride the hot team. So Florida, to me, is the way to go. They're looking great right now, playing great hockey. They are the home team tonight, and they get the job done.
And you say that they're hot right now. McGinnis, would you think the Panthers make the playoffs, or no? They're on the outside looking in.
They'd really have to continue things, but you know what? I think it could be done right now with the way that I see them playing right now. But I tell you, like I said at the start, this wild card is going to be unbelievably tight for any team. It's wide open. It really comes out in the next few weeks here, Drew. But again, they're playing some good hockey and they're beating teams they need to beat. So the next couple of games are really huge for them right now. But I've just been impressed with what I've seen with them recently.
And Alex, what about you? Do you think the Panthers have a shot to make the playoffs? Do you think they will make the playoffs?
I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but they are definitely in the mix of that race. Like I said, within the wild card standings in the East. But you look at the teams like Pittsburgh and Montreal. I mean, they're a full 10 points ahead of them. It's going to be a bit of a battle, but I could see them fading out a little bit sooner. And even with Buffalo as well, I think they're a team that the strides that they made, and it's going to be a real disappointment if the Sabres don't make the playoffs because of that's kind of their trajectory of where they've gone the last couple of seasons, trying to get back into the postseason. But it's going to be a dogfight definitely in that stretch for the next couple of weeks.
Like Buffalo in 10th with 63 points and Florida in 12th with 58. But if you look at their recent records over just last 10, 20 games, these standings don't really kind of reflect that. So I think it's interesting we're seeing a team that is two numbers less, like two levels down in the standings, yet they're laying a minus 140. So it just goes to show, I think, how things have kind of changed and how Buffalo has really, really fallen off. So, like Drew is saying, things can really kind of develop and grow. So Florida can be in the mix over the next couple of weeks. It's just a matter of how they handle the next couple of games.
All right, good breakdown there in the game in South Florida tonight from Andrew McGinnis. He's got his NHL Tuesday night puck line play up at sportsmemo.com. Check that out. Also, remember, it's $2 Tuesday, guys. Great day to visit the website. We got Alex looking at a game tonight, and Alex is 7-4, 64%, plus 11.2 units his last 11 plays, so heating up in the NHL. Got a play up tonight on the West Coast as well. But Alex, you were just bringing up a game off right before we started recording. 61-62 here. We got Anaheim at Minnesota. Looks like a total of 5.5. Lower total here. You don't see many totals in the NHL betting markets getting under 6, but this one is. Also a hefty favorite here. Minnesota laying $2 at home, minus as high as minus 210 at Bookmaker right now. So how would you look to bet Anaheim, Minnesota tonight?
This is going to be an interesting game, and it certainly won't be the most interesting game to watch. But you got two matchups here between some horrible teams. Anaheim is 4-20 in their last 24 games. They had a 4-game win streak in mid-December, and then they just completely collapsed. We've seen the coaching changes now. You got Bob Murray, the GM, who had no coaching experience whatsoever, basically come down to the bench and replace Randy Carlyle. That hasn't shaken things up much. They did pick up a 5-2 win against Washington in their last game. It was a Washington team that's been looking kind of tired. We've talked about that before, about how they've kind of struggled down the road late. But this Minnesota team, this is a complete fade on Minnesota right now. They've lost 4 in a row. They've lost 8 of their last 9. But the game Sunday afternoon, to a national TV game against St. Louis, it was just embarrassing. I mean, the defense completely gave up. You had in the game before, Bruce Boudreau, head coach for the Wild, basically called out his top goaltender, Devin Dubnyk, said he's not playing well, he's not focused, not rested, and so he went with Alex Stalock, who's a formidable backup at best, and Stalock let in some really soft goals. St. Louis ended up winning that game 4-0, and just the whole feel, I'm here in St. Paul, Minnesota, the whole feel around town with this team is that, this is another, dismal season, and they may not even make the playoffs at this point now. Like I said, things fading out. You got teams like Chicago and Vancouver on the rise. They're right at the bottom that wild card spot here. The only way I would look here at playing it would either be Anaheim plus 180, or you can even get some value with the plus 1.5 at around minus $1.30. I just don't see where the Wild get the energy to play this Anaheim team. And Anaheim had a 10-game losing streak earlier in the year. They went into the XL Energy Center, picked up a 3-0 win to snap that streak. So out of those 4 wins I mentioned of the last 24 games, one of them came in this building in St. Paul against the Minnesota Wild.
Yeah, and Alex, I mean, seeing north of $2 favorite going against Anaheim, and you're also mentioning, Minnesota kind of, a bubble team of sorts is making the playoffs. Is that normal for the NHL to have this big of a favorite, not be, like the Tampa Bay Lightning or something? It's kind of a middle-of-the-road team?
Actually, that's something you will notice now as we get, like I said, into this playoff push. You will see bookmakers overvalue playoff teams going against non-playoff teams. Like I said, if they look at just a blank, look at the standings, and you see, Minnesota's right now, if the season ended, would be in the playoffs, and Anaheim would be, probably the number 1 draft pick. So they just naturally go off of that, not realizing that Minnesota's lost 8 and 9, and the fashion in which they've lost, the teams they've lost to. St. Louis is a good team, but they lost 5-4 to a bad New Jersey team. They lost 5-4 to this Buffalo team we talked about. They lost 4-1 against a horrible Edmonton team. So they're giving up goals. If you have to look a little bit deeper than the just general standings. And that's something for the bookmakers they don't look at. So something for bettors to take note of. Don't always just follow the standings, especially because we've got tight races in this wild card spot. So where a team wins 4 or 5 games, they're right back in the mix. But Minnesota is highly overpriced here. I would definitely go with the Ducks here.
Drew, that's a great question, man. I love that question because I've been a lot more these days looking at the plus 1.5s. And I didn't always do that. That wasn't really part of my handicap usually. But when you start seeing teams that shouldn't be favored by as much as they are whatsoever, instead of just looking at fade and the ultimate, go with the complete underdog number, you can usually get a decent price with a plus 1.5. And with a game like that, you look at that same kind of situation where Minnesota's minus 200, 210 at some spots, and yet these two teams have both been as equally horrific. So there's no way it should be this much disparity between that line. So that's a great question to ask because in hockey, I believe, like Alex explained that so great, you see that so much. So I don't think anyone in their right mind would be taking Minnesota minus 225.
Okay, good stuff, Andrew. And also great breakdown, Alex. Alex has his NHL 3% underdog shocker top play going tonight. That's on the West Coast, I believe. And you can get it for half off using the coupon code NHLPOD. That's P-O-D. So NHLPOD at checkout to get Alex's top play tonight for half off. You can also use that same coupon code for Andrew McGinnis's NHL Tuesday night puck line play. NHL Pod at checkout for either or both play going tonight for just half off. Normally $20, you can get it for just $10 using the coupon code NHL Pod at checkout. McGinnis, let's come to you with the next game. We got 57-58 here, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. Puck drop. Columbus at Montreal, seeing a total of 6. Also competitively lined game here with Montreal laying minus 120, minus 125 at home.
I'll tell you, Drew, Alex, you know me. I'm getting tired of hearing people say, I saw a tweet yesterday. Someone said, anybody hear that noise? That huge, bang? That's the Montreal Canadiens going back to life, hitting the earth really hard. I don't believe it. And it's not just because they're my team. 4 straight losses for them, but it was a tough road trip. Toronto, Nashville, then Tampa Bay, ending off with Florida. And that last one against Florida was tough to see. But now they got Columbus on a back-to-back, and we see a different Columbus team as well that's been so bipolar, so sporadic, so unpredictable, really, which is why I'm staying off the side in this one, and I am looking over the total, guys. You got a team like Columbus coming off a game against a team like Tampa Bay that absolutely dominated them. From the get-go, from the first puck drop, it was completely Tampa Bay dominant. However, I got to give lots of credit to Vasilevsky because he did kind of steal that game as well. He did make some great saves for Tampa Bay, but Columbus couldn't solve him outright. They just couldn't get the job done. And I believe John Tortorella was still proud of the way his team was moving into the offensive zone. That was his biggest thing. They want to stay away from that neutral zone, keep the puck out of their own end as much as they can, get the puck deep, and try and work things around. But they just couldn't get any dangerous scoring opportunities. But I found it very, very interesting that this team to the over is 6-2-1 in their last 9 after allowing 5 goals or more in their last game. So 6-2-1 after kind of getting blown out pretty much in their last game. So I always look for that. Look for teams that are good at bouncing back. Looking for teams that are good at strategically working their way back onto the score sheet because, as we know, sometimes you get into a goal funk and it's hard to get out. So it was great to find that stat and find out this team excels at kind of bouncing back towards, getting on the stat sheet, getting on the goal sheet once again. And the over is also 9-4-2 in the Blue Jackets' last 15 versus the Atlantic Division. And, got to give credit when it's due. And I think you look at this Montreal lineup, you see a guy like Max Domi. You got a lot of hate, when he came to Montreal, not from the Montreal fans, just around the league because it was a 1-for-1 trade, him and Alex Galchenyuk. And I think that, looking at the way he's played this season, he has certainly surpassed expectations and done everything he could to make this organization happy that they made that trade. He reached 19 goals 2 nights ago. That's his career high so far. Last year, he had 6 on the season, I believe. So, that's a progression. That's something that you can look at Marc Bergevin, the GM for the Habs, and say, hey, look, maybe you actually did a good thing and, brought a fresh guy over here and, he's really making a difference. So he's doing great. He's on a line with Brendan Gallagher. They're really clicking together. And, you look at Montreal in that game versus Florida, it was kind of a track meet game. They were trading goal for goal. and then some outstanding play by Barkov for Florida, and Montreal just kind of left out of the game. So it was a 6-3 finish. But, Montreal is a team right now where in their last 3 games, it's been Nashville, they only scored 1. Tampa Bay, they scored 0. They didn't score at all. Florida, they only scored 3. This, to me, should be their breakout game. I believe we're seeing Bobrovsky in nets for Columbus. I think they really open the score sheet up, and I think Columbus bounces back big. Columbus has got some talent as well. And overall, looking at this matchup here on the back-to-back, I believe we see some goals in this one in Montreal tonight. So going to go over the 6 in this one here on the podcast.
All right, liking the over there. And also, guys, check out sportsmemo.com for Andrew's top play tonight. NHL Tuesday night puck line play for $20 up at sportsmemo.com. And you can get half off using the coupon code NHLPOD at checkout. That's NHLPOD for half off. Andrew McGinnis or Alex B. Smith's top play, or both. And Alex, we'll come to you. Let's finish it off. In conclusion, 63-64. We got Nashville at Dallas. Looks like another competitively lined game here. 8:30 Eastern puck drop, so a later start. We got minus 108 at 5 dimes, seeing minus 116 at Bookmaker. That's the Preds laying on the road. Total of 5.5. Another low total here, Alex. How would you look to bet Nashville and Dallas?
Yeah, I'm looking at the Predators here in this game, and I know they haven't been playing well on the road. They're 7-15 their last 22 games away from Bridgestone Arena, but they're playing a Dallas team that's kind of fallen off a little bit. They're in the same boat, not exactly the same boat as Minnesota, but as far as standings go, they have the number 1 spot in the wild card currently, but they're trending downward, and they've got teams, like I said, right outside the gate that are kind of nipping at them, and this is going to be a tough spot here. They got Anton Khudobin is starting in net. Ben Bishop, their normal starting goaltender, he's not even going to dress for this game. You look at Khudobin's stats, he's played 8 games against Nashville, 3-2-1 with a 2.46 goals against and a save percentage of .926. So he's done adequately well in his career against this team. But this is a Nashville team that won 7 of the last 10 meetings with Dallas. They have lost 4 of their last 5 games. So they need something to kind of get them on a roll. They've also done pretty well, battling against division teams. They are 9-7-1 and 4-3 on the road against division teams. So I could see that trend continuing here against the Dallas team. I think we're getting a good price with Nashville here tonight on the road.
Okay, liking the Preds on the road. And Alex has his top play up at sportsmemo.com as well. NHL 3% underdog shocker top play. And again, you can get it half off with the coupon code NHLPOD at checkout. Also remember, it's $2 Tuesday at sportsmemo.com. Our top play from Robbie Vino, just $2 at checkout. Plus you get extra bonuses in the analysis on other long-term services and top plays for tonight. Andrew, is there anything else you wanted to throw out before we shut this down as far as NHL betting markets, what you're seeing, any advice for the listeners betting tonight, betting the next week in the NHL?
As far as those first period totals, they've really cooled down. As far as the overs go, Alex has really been all over that and made some spreadsheets, etc. But look at the unders in those these days. There's been a lot of value for that. And, certain teams like Dallas, like Anaheim, like Minnesota are going under in that first period. And, no matter what price you're getting with these certain overs at insane minus 180, 200s, you can get some plus money sometimes, or just regular, minus 110, 120 at just the under in some of these. So just kind of a different trend there. And again, I'm going to reiterate this. I recommend people stay off those massive, massive lines. If you like a team and it's too much juice, take the -1, take the regulation, sprinkle a little bit of cash on the overtime prop. Stay away from these massive, massive lines, because overall it's not going to help your bankroll management and it's not going to help you succeed over long term. So this NHL is definitely a marathon for sure, and it's important to realize when you want to take these underdogs, when you want to take these short, long faves, because it certainly is a long season. And as we all know that bet hockey, each and every night anything can really happen.
All right, good stuff. Good breakdowns. Andrew, follow him on Twitter at McGinnis Sports. Also, Alex B. Smith, follow him on Twitter at AX Smith Sports. Alex, is there anything else you want to throw out in conclusion? I know you were big on those first period totals, which have cooled off. Not that you've cooled off, but the market you said has. And anything else you want to throw out, NHL betting?
just to reiterate what Andrew was saying about, derivative wagering is imperative to use at this time right now. From here all the way and then through into the postseason as well. Like I said, looking for team totals. Like I said, even with the first period over, like I said, the first period overs have cooled off. Look at those unders, but also if you have the ability to wager live. We've seen a lot of these games start off 0-0, 1-0, and then they explode and go over. So definitely look at the over. In game when you see some of those, if you've seen teams that it went 1-0 in the first period, but there were a lot of scoring chances involved, some of those actually might go in the second and third period. So, looking at that, overtime props, those different things, like I said, there's more than one way to skin a cat here. So definitely look at some of these other options as we get down into the stretch run here in the regular season.
Yeah, that happened a lot last night. Sorry, Drew. That happened a lot last night. And for example, I had that in the Kings game last night, and I was wondering, if it's going to be a tight one, is it going to cash for me? And Washington Capitals, we know how much of a dangerous team they are, and they were dominating throughout the game, but the Kings just couldn't get on the board. So I ended up taking that the live total and just needed 2 goals in the third period, and of course the Kings go out and score 2 goals. So the game finished 3-2. And of course, the total on the game pregame was 5.5, so it didn't go over pregame. But of course, that live total easily cashed. So it's important to look at that because some people, say that live betting can be a dangerous game, but if you play it smart, you can definitely beat the market.
And is there any books you guys recommend as far as live betting, or is this just like when the first period's over, then you can put it in the bet, or can you actually bet it live as the game's going on?
There's some shops you can bet it live, and then there's some places I use. I know Bet Online has a lot where you can do it. They only pop up at the end of the period, so kind of like a first half, second half in college football or something. So yeah, you definitely have to shop around. There's a few options that have live betting, and then as we go into the Stanley Cup playoffs, pretty sure every book that has a live wagering available will have every game. Not just in between periods, but as the game's going on.
Okay. All right. Thanks for explaining that, Alex. And you can follow Alex on Twitter at AXSmithSports. He's got his top play up at sportsmemo.com. Get it for half off using the coupon code NHLPOD. Also, Andrew McGinnis, follow him on Twitter at McGinnis Sports. He has his top play. NHLPOD gives you that one for half off as well. $2 Tuesday. Check out sportsmemo.com. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Best of luck with your bets. We'll talk tomorrow.